Hi guys, it's Tasting Tuesday, and the same as every week, I'm going to be blind tasting a glass of wine, and I'm going to run through the assessment process I use as part of my wine diploma preparation. But what I'm hoping to help people understand is what to look for when they're tasting a wine, which is going to help them communicate to a sommelier or someone in a store particular characteristics of a wine that you enjoy. So whether it's a specific fruit characteristic, you really like wines that have a lot of apricot or citrus on them, or if you like other characteristics, like you like wines with really high acidity that make you salivate and taste really refreshing on the palate. So let's see how I get on. Okay, same as every week, the first thing I'm going to assess is the colour. With a white wine, I do that by tilting the glass and looking down through the wine to see how close to the edge of the rim that the colour comes. But this is a fairly simple one. I think you can see there if I hold it up to the camera that this is quite evidently quite a pale wine. So this will be a pale lemon wine. And this indicates to me that this could be a young wine and also a wine that hasn't received any oxygen contact and probably hasn't received any oak treatment. Next on we go to the nose. So we give the wine a swirl. The reason we give the wine a swirl is it's to release the aroma compounds off the surface of the wine so they can actually get into your nose and you can actually smell what's going on. So let's give it a smell. Okay, on the nose of this wine, if I give it a sniff, I'm getting citrus, I'm getting some stone fruit, so I'm getting lemons, I'm getting maybe a little bit of lime, I'm also getting some stone fruit, apricot, peach. What's interesting here is I'm definitely getting a little bit of vanilla, and I'm definitely getting a little bit of creaminess. So the colour of the wine suggested to me that it didn't have oak contact, but if I give it a smell, because it has a vanilla aroma, which it would get from oak treatment, it's a lactone from the oak which gets into the wine, and also it has a slight creaminess to it, which suggests it's gone through something called the malolactic fermentation. Suggests to me that this might have had some oak contact. The aromas are pretty complex, relatively well defined. There's slight hint of tropical note to it, maybe a hint of pineapple. So I'm thinking that indicates to me it's potentially a slightly warmer climate. But it's a stone fruity, maybe slightly tropical aroma that smells quite creamy as well, which has got almost a little bit of butter that's going on there, which is quite nice. So next up, I'm going to go onto the palate, so let's give it a taste. So on the palate, the wine is dry, which means it doesn't have any residual sugar in it. It's, I would say, high alcohol. I'm getting quite a lot of alcohol burn off this wine, and it's the warmness you can feel in your throat, and you can feel it in the back of your mouth. So I'm going to say that this is probably a high alcohol wine. I think it's 14% or higher. The acidity is medium. The body of the wine is probably medium plus. It's quite heavy, and a lot of that is driven by the alcohol and the fact that it's had some oak treatment, malolactic fermentation, which adds texture to the wine. It is medium length finish, but it's quite overpowered by the alcohol. So it's difficult for me to really taste any difference in the fruit composition of the wine. It's a well executed wine. It's relatively imbalanced. I just find the alcohol a little bit overpowering. Yeah, I just get really the butter aromas and the same kind of stone fruit flavors that are coming through. So yeah, I need to try and work out what this is. So I need to get onto my assessment. Okay, so now I have to go back through the process mentally and work out what I've got. And I've a pale wine, but it also smells like it's had malolactic fermentation because it smells creamy, smells of butter, but it's still pale. So it's going to indicate that it hasn't had any oak maturation, but maybe it has had malolactic fermentation. And what that is, it's the conversion of malic acid into lactic acid. So basically when you bite into an apple, that's malic acid, that tart acidity. And then there's a process after the alcoholic fermentation called malolactic fermentation, where these malic acids are converted into lactic acids. And lactic acids you would find in milk, so it's much softer. And so the idea is that when a winemaker allows that process to occur, it softens the acidity in the wine and makes it a little less tart. which is quite interesting on this wine. So that means it may have started out with a little harsher acidity than it has now, but what's interesting to me is that it has stone fruit characteristics, which indicates a slightly warmer climate, and it also has quite high alcohol, which could also indicate a warmer climate. However, as for grape variety, I am very, very lost on this. Let's find out what it is. Okay, so here's the wine. I didn't score it before, so I'll give it a score now. And if I was going to score the wine out of 100, I would probably score it an 88. If I was going to go with the Wines and Spirits Education Trust rating, I would probably rate it a good wine. I think it lacked a bit of varietal definition, and also lacked a little bit of fruit complexity, and the alcohol was a little bit out of balance. I was just left with a burning sensation rather than the pleasant fruit flavors going down on the palate. I had no idea what the grape variety was. I thought it might be something a little bit more unusual. The only thing I did really guess at was that it was over 14% alcohol. So let's see if I got close. Wow, okay. So this is a Rats Chenin Blanc from South Africa. I didn't get any characteristics of a Chenin Blanc. This is an old vine Chenin Blanc. I will have to look this up to try and find out if it has had oak treatment. Just looking at the back of the label, see if I can find it there. It doesn't mention anything about oak treatment or not. And it's 13.5% alcohol. So I said north of 14%. This is right on the border. Under 13.5%, you would say medium alcohol, or medium plus. Over 13.5%, you could say high alcohol. What was interesting, yeah, I didn't get any varietal characteristics on this wine. I think this wine was around about 100 dirhams in the UAE. I'm sure it'd be much cheaper in Europe. Not a bad wine, not a great wine. I think it would be good with food, but not necessarily brilliant to drink on its own. So there you go. I was totally lost this week, but it was a Rats Old Vine Chenin Blanc from Stellenbosch, South Africa. Let's see what I get next week.